Hello, 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 and welcome to Being the Healer in Your Home. I am so excited to share with you the things that I have learned over my last nearly 9 years of motherhood. My name is Mara, if you don't know me yet personally, and I will introduce myself a little bit more to you in a second. I have a presentation prepared that is packed with quite a lot of information. And my recommendation to you is to ideally have something where you can take notes, to have some water ready. If you use essential oils, to have some essential oils ready, and to take as much as you like and to simply discard the rest. These are the things that work for me. These are the things that I have learned on my journey of becoming the healer in my home. And my intention is to share all of that with you, and then for you to feel empowered to make your own choices and implement your own tools and strategies so that you can be the healer in your home. Just going to move my diffuser so we don't have the mist going over the camera. All right, here we go. I'm going to share with you in a second everything that we will be going through. A little overview. So here we are, being the healer in your home. This is intended to be an activation for all mothers who come into contact with this, because really nothing about this is new. All of this information is out there. However, it has been somewhat hidden, you might say, especially in our modern day and age. So this is what we will cover. First, I will tell you a little bit about me, then the backstory and the intention for the healer in every home. Then we will talk about the mind or the heart set of the healer. I will share with you some facts about mums because mothers are pretty damn amazing. We will talk about allopathic medicine and especially about some of the downfalls of allopathic medicines. And then we will go into tools, natural tools that you can use in your everyday life in your home to ensure the health of your family. So we'll talk about nutrition. We talk about essential oils. We will talk about Schussler salts, which is an area of homeopathics. We will talk about the master mineral. Maybe you already know what that master mineral is, but it's a crucial mineral that most of us are deficient in. And we will be talking about the energetics behind all of this. So firstly, a little bit about me, if you don't know me personally. I am a mother of two. I have a 5-year-old boy and a nearly 9-year-old girl. You can see them here. They were much younger then. I have a bachelor degree, an honors degree in psychology, but I never actually registered as a counselor. I decided to weave a different path. I didn't really enjoy the mainstream psychology. I then became a yoga teacher. And then I met my beautiful husband, Adam, and he's a chiropractor. And I put in there chiropractor's wife because he is a lifelong learner and he obviously always shares with me what he has learned over the dinner table. So he has had a big, profound effect on obviously my growth and also some of the things that I share with you today. I'm also an essential oil educator and have been for a good 6, nearly 7 years. I call myself a health nut because I constantly look for ways to raise my level of health and vitality. And I'm kind of from everywhere. So I was born in Austria, raised in Germany. I found love in Australia and I live in Nicaragua. And I also live in 3 languages. So forgive me if I sometimes struggle to find the right word because sometimes the exact word will pop in my head in a different language and it'll take me a second to translate it. All right. The backstory to all of this, I will read this to you. So when I became a mother, which was nearly 9 years ago, I realized with a mixture of panic and excitement that I would be now responsible for my daughter's well-being. And then I came across this concept of becoming the healer in your home. And this really resonated with me. So that was 9 years ago. And ever since then, I have not stopped learning or applying ever since. And so, what I'm sharing with you today is a brief, somewhat brief summary of what works for me and my family. And at this point, I have to give credit for the name and the essence to my dear friend Natalie Goddard, who came up with this title a few years ago. And I have borrowed this name and expanded upon it with my own things. And the intention of this is to empower you to feel more at home in this role of being the healer in your home. So, like I said at the beginning, take whatever you like and simply discard the rest. And I will read a few statements to you now. And my question for you is, do you feel this? Do these resonate with you somewhere in your heart or your soul? So, Mama, do you feel this? A strange knowing that there's something more to motherhood than maybe what we are told or what we experience in society. And because of that, an indescribable sadness that this something more is not honored in our society. And perhaps a yearning for deeper layers of support, exchange with wise women who have gone before you on this journey of motherhood. And possibly a sense of insecurity or even fear around all of the following topics: pregnancy, birth, breastfeeding, development, and the health of your child, and your ability to do the quote unquote right things. If any of this resonates with you, then you are in the right place. And these are exactly the things that I was feeling and still at times do feel, which have led me down this path of looking how to be the healer in my home. All right. I believe we as mothers are natural healers. And I will give you a few key points that kind of prove this. So in your belly, your baby has, or had, if you're currently pregnant, everything that they need, right? Also, in your milk was, or is, if you're still breastfeeding, everything that they need. And in your arms, when they are upset or hurt or feel bad, they are 100% at home no matter where you are, and you can give them pure comfort. Your sheer presence make them feel better. So we already are healers. So let's expand on that and let's get some tools and some strategies that make us even more effective. Here are two specific examples of your healing powers that you may or may not know yet, but these are actually proven by modern science. Number one is when you kiss your baby's head, you take a sample of the pathogens around, and your body will then provide the exact antibodies that your child needs to stay well or get well through your milk. That still blows my mind. And then example number two is that simply you being close to your baby or your young child helps them actually regulate their body temperature, their heart rate, and their breath rate. I was told today when I did the other version of Healer in Every Home in German, I was told by another mother that even in some ICU units for very young children, they practice that so that they can actually monitor that when the mother is close to the baby, that all of these vital functions will be much better than when the mother is not there. And so they encourage mothers to stay close to their babies, even if they are in their little breeding containers. So there you have it. These are two scientific proofs that you are a natural healer. So now let's take a little detour and kind of look at what has happened over the last few decades. Now, allopathic medicine is definitely one of the let's say, amazing things that we have access to. And I'm incredibly grateful for that, especially for crisis care. So if I have a very bad injury, if I have a very bad break, if I, for whatever reason, go into full sepsis and I can't regulate my body anymore, then please take me to allopathic medicine, take me to a hospital, take me to a very good doctor, and give me all the medicine that I need. However, if I am not that level of unwell, I am convinced that staying away from allopathic medicine and all the medications out there is the way to go. So I think the same goes for us as mothers and for our children and for this whole journey of motherhood. Since World War II, most people have outsourced their health needs more and more, including pregnancy, childbirth, and the feeding and taking care of their children when unwell. And that has led to a incredibly overpowering system of medication, of not necessarily healthy recommendations in my eyes, and it certainly has not led to the empowerment of mothers in their home. And I believe that an empowered mother is a force of nature and dangerous to a system of control. And unfortunately, allopathic medicine has come to that level of control. And we will look into some of the legislative changes in a minute that are happening around the world that we need to be aware of and keep an eye on. The problem with allopathic medicine is that it is not on its own, but it is in a relationship, a very close relationship with big pharma. The big pharmaceutical companies are so interwoven with the modern practices that it is no longer just your doctor who gives you a recommendation. Behind your doctor is usually big pharma with vested interest that you consume as many medications as possible throughout your life. And the same goes for your child, because there's money to be made. And it's sad, but it's true. And Big Pharma was able to provide solutions for problems that most of the time are actually lifestyle related. And we know that. We statistically know this. So where then does health begin if this is the status quo? And I believe it is in our homes. Now, here's some of these changes in legislation that you should pay attention to. And this is happening worldwide, but here's two great examples of that. Queensland, which is a big state in Australia where my husband is from and where we were living for a long time. I lived there for a good 10 years. Just October 13th this year, passed an act, and it's called the Health Practitioner Regulation National Law and Other Legislation Amendment Bill 2020. And that basically says that your doctor is no longer allowed to give you an opinion other than what the governmental guidelines are. Or if they do, they will be fined up to $60,000 to $120,000 and risk losing their license to practice. So in Queensland, if you now go to your doctor and you ask them for their opinion, or you try to go to another doctor to get a second opinion, you will not get that unless you have a very brave doctor who is ready to risk it all for your well-being. This is a very sad change in legislation that has shocked both me and my husband, who is a chiropractor, and we had a practice in Australia for a long time. So thinking of what this would mean for him now, is kind of unfathomable, to be honest. I can't even say it. Unfathomable. Oh God. Anyway, you know what I mean. Now let's go to the other side of the world. Let's go to Canada, British Columbia, in BC. Just 2 days ago, on the 25th of, not October, this is supposed to say November, they passed Bill number 36, 2020, which says that healthcare workers must comply with governmental orders and opinions. Otherwise, they can be fined up to $200,000 and get even up to 6 months of jail time. I mean, WTF, right? Isn't that crazy? So I expect this to expand worldwide under under the guise of protecting the public. So that means that the doctor-patient relationship is no longer untouchable. And it's so sad, and it's something that concerns me, and it is part of the reason of why we left the Western world. Because this is just the beginning, I believe. And COVID and everything that has happened after that, the whole rat's tail, all the requirements that most people just went along with, gives us a very good idea of where we are headed when it comes to health. So what does that mean for us as mothers, right? What are the implications? I believe it means that the time to prepare and educate ourselves and to protect our children is absolutely now. And it is no longer not just something that we might feel is a good thing to do. I honestly believe that this is absolutely core to the health and well-being of our children in the future. So now let's move on to the mindset and the heart set of the healer. There's a few statements that I will read to you now that I would like you to just absorb and feel into, possibly with your eyes closed and some deep breaths into your belly and into your heart. Because this really is the essence of what we sink into when we become more comfortable with this role. Listen to this. They came to me and through me, and so I know what they need. They rely on me, and I'm strong and wise enough to give them what they need. I rely on my instinct. Whatever guidance or suggestions I receive from experts, I will always be cross-checking that with my intuition. I am the gatekeeper of my family's health. I have what I need to educate and prepare myself to be the healer in my home. Now, I invite you to just breathe that in and to see how that sits in your body and where it maybe lands beautifully and where you maybe still feel like, not so sure. And that is okay, because this is a role that we get to grow into over months and years and possibly decades as we become the healer in our home and as we become that matriarch of our lineage, which is a really beautiful and sadly very underestimated role in our society today. How empowering, right? To feel into having your children turn to you for a solution for their problems, and you then being able to give that to them. I think for all of you who have children, you know that as soon as your children are hurt or sad or feel unwell, it's just mom, 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 mom. And I know that can be so annoying and so draining and so exhausting, but it is our role. Like we touched on at the beginning, we literally are natural healers, and our children know that. So they push us to actually become more of that, to unlock more of that, because they rely on us to give them those answers and those solutions. And by you stepping into this role more and more, you are actually able to instill lifelong healthy habits that will keep and make them well. And you can teach them that their body and their mind is actually their number one asset in life, and that they must prioritize their well-being. If you've ever had a really significant health crisis in your life, or you have watched a loved one go through one, you know that everything else goes. Nothing else matters. Not your lifestyle, not your money, not your status, not your plans. Nothing matters once your health goes. So those crises, even though they're not pleasant, they show us what our number one priority is, and that it really is our health. And if we don't have that, we really don't have much, and we certainly don't have much to offer. So you stepping more into that role and teaching your children that, you can literally set up the next generation. There is this other phenomenal fact that blows me away because I have a daughter, and that is that your daughter, a young girl, already has all of the eggs in her belly that she will release throughout her life that will potentially turn into her future children. So when you are in the presence of a young girl, you are also in the presence of the next generation that she might be bringing through. That blows me away. And I'm in awe of that. And it reminds me of the incredible responsibility that I have to bring healing and nurturing to my children, because literally the next generation is already there. And the choices that we make, the things we do or that we don't do, have an effect already on the next generation, not only on our children, but also on our potential grandchildren. Like that is to me mind blowing. So, how you show up daily and how you take care of yourself is actually part of what you're modeling to your children and how you're setting up that next generation. And here, you are the expert on your child's health because you actually made them. They arrived on earth through you, so you know how to take care of them. Now we're going to go into some simple tools, and all of these tools are completely natural and they are very lifestyle related. So I believe that living that way is a really amazing way of preventing disease, dis-ease, yeah, the absence of ease. And we're going to begin with something really basic, and that is actually you and how much you engage with stimulants. Now, our modern lifestyle for many people is very fast paced and it's full of demands. And that then goes hand in hand with the stimulants that we try to use or maybe abuse in order to keep up with that lifestyle. And number one on the list for many of us is coffee. And I know that many people love coffee, and I am one of those. And I have really had to recreate my relationship with coffee. And I'll share with you why in a second. So I will suggest that in order for you to be the healer in your home, you need to watch your intake of those stimulants, coffee, other stimulants like energy drinks or things that push you up, change your state, or even things like smoking weed or drinking alcohol. Also, medications, sugars, and environmental toxins. Obviously, when you're pregnant, I think that goes without saying, and breastfeeding, but also in general as your role in the healer in your home. Now, I'm not going to tell you to never drink alcohol or coffee or do whatever you feel like is a fun or cool thing to do. That's your choice. But I will say that your state is always going to have an effect on your children. And really good examples are crazy and, you know, full on examples of mothers who are alcoholics or drug addicts, where you see the massive effect that change in state has on their children and how traumatizing that is. Now, that is obviously a very extreme example, but even this constant use of stimulants and the change of state that it creates has an effect on our children. So we need to watch it. And very specifically to coffee, it's actually not the caffeine that is the issue, it's the coffee. Now, coffee does a very interesting thing, and it blocks your nutrient absorption for a few hours. So just let that sink in, right? You have a coffee, and then that will block your nutrient absorption for a few hours. So then if you have multiple coffees a day, guess what happens? Next stop, depletion. Especially us as mothers, you know, our relationship to nutrients is different than our male counterparts, because we and our bodies are the one that literally grow new life, and then we give birth to that new life, and then we breastfeed that new life. We need more nutrients to be able to do that well. So when we get depleted, that has a devastating effect on our unborn babies or possibly on the babies that we breastfeed. But also energetically, it has an effect because we don't just nourish our children through the nutrients, but also through our energy. So that is something that I am really passionate to share about, because coffee for me is kryptonite. I love it and I will still drink it sometimes, but I only allow myself about 3 to 5 coffees a week, because I know if I have any more, then my natural state of vitality declines. Now, every single person is different, and what's right for me might not be right for you, but it's something I would like you to reflect on if your relationship with coffee is actually serving you or if it's an unhealthy relationship. Just give me a second. I need to close my screen. All right. Also, one last thing on, like, one last thought on that. Coffee for many of us has a very emotional connection and can hold in place some of our emotional blockages and traumas. So many of you were born into families where coffee and coffee drinking was normal and even celebrated and almost like revered. I mean, I remember my parents in the morning, the first thing they needed was a coffee. I was talking to a woman today and she said, well, my mother, I remember I couldn't even talk to her before she had had her morning coffee. Then it's also just such a societal thing of like, all right, we're going to stop and have a break for coffee. So it's quite loaded energetically for us. And that coffee and that addiction is not just a physical one, it's also an energetic and emotional one. And if we really want to transform and heal on a deeper level, we need to get rid of those addictions that hold a big space in our energetic reality. All right. The next tool we're going to talk about is the master mineral. And maybe you knew this, maybe you didn't. The master mineral is magnesium. The most important mineral in our body is magnesium, because literally the body depends on it for hundreds of enzymatic functions. So it is an essential nutrient for the healthy function of our muscles and nerves. A lot of things deplete magnesium. One of them, you might have guessed it, is drinking coffee. But also, stress will deplete your magnesium levels very rapidly. Sugar will deplete your magnesium levels, and sweating. So chances are, unless you are supplementing with magnesium, you are probably low. And it's also quite likely that your children are low in magnesium unless you are giving them a very healthy diet or you are supplementing them with magnesium. And in children, magnesium deficiency can look like this: loss of appetite, fatigue, nausea, muscle spasms or cramps, trouble sleeping, hyperactivity, irritability, and anxiety. And I'm quite convinced that many children are misdiagnosed with ADHD when really they are just magnesium deficient from a very stressful lifestyle. It's very sad, but very true. And I believe this was me as a child. I definitely had a lot of fatigue. I had some cramps. I often was irritable and I sometimes had trouble sleeping. And I also would get skin issues that now I only get when I forget to take my magnesium. So it's something for you to look into and to think about, obviously, if that is the case for your child, but also remember yourself. Yeah. If you are breastfeeding, if you have had a pregnancy or 2 or 3, if you have a stressful lifestyle, chances are you are low in magnesium, and it can't hurt to supplement a little bit. The other thing that is massive in our day and age is to manage toxicity. In today's toxic maze, true health is really rare. Herbicides, pesticides, fungicides, preservatives, additives, colors, flavors, and that is only the toxicity we find in our food. Then you think about cleaning products, new clothes that have some sort of impregnation on them, shoes, air fresheners, paints on the walls, fumes from cars, heavy metals in water, and also in our soil, and the pollution in the air. And I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And unfortunately, When you look at the umbilical cord blood of babies born today, there is literally hundreds of man-made chemicals in that umbilical cord blood. So again, sad but true. So what are we going to do about it? Well, we have to find a way to manage it. And one of the ways that I love is a very simple thing, and it is it's not a supplement because it's not something that gives us nutrients. It's something that actually pulls the toxicity out of us. And it's called TRS, and that's an abbreviation for Toxin Removal System. And it's a spray that doesn't have a taste, it doesn't have a smell. It literally feels like you're spraying water in your mouth, but it is lab-grown clean octilolite. So that is a zeolite, and that's basically an absorbent. It's almost like a sponge. You take it in, and it will go through your body like a sponge, and it will soak up these environmental toxins. And we personally have seen some pretty epic results with that. One that I want to share with you that actually wasn't with our children, even though we've seen some amazing results with our children as well. One that was with my cat. My cat started having this like really bad skin fungus that I took her to the vet for, and the vet confirmed, yes, it's a skin fungus, and then recommended some fungal medication. And that medication did absolutely nothing other than make her more unwell. And after 2 or 3 weeks of that, and me watching my cat get worse and worse and worse, and actually being extremely concerned, because then she stopped eating, she stopped wanting to be near us. And I actually thought that she could be a health risk for our family at that point. I had this intuition, and I felt like, I think she's got some toxicity, because toxicity issues often come out through our skin because our skin is trying to purge it. The skin is often referred to as the second liver. So skin issues are often toxicity related. So my intuition told me, just give your cat this spray. And so I started researching, and I actually started asking my friend who sells this product. And I said, can I give this to my cat? And she said, yes. And I gave my cat 2 sprays in her mouth and a couple on her fur every single day for about a week. And I kid you not, she completely recovered. It took another week or so for the spots on her fur to heal, because she started losing all her fur, all her hair. And now my beautiful cat is completely back to her normal, happy, and healthy self. So toxicity is often a massive cause for disease. And us as mothers managing toxicity in our homes through some clever lifestyle choices can prevent disease. Now, if you do want to know more about this product, you can contact me and I can get you in touch with the person who sells it. Another tool for us is to just be aware of some of these other underlying reasons for dis-ease. One of them is trauma, old feelings that we haven't fully dealt with, a level of shock, trauma, and sadness that is stuck and locked in ourselves and in our body. So when it comes to our children, it's that awareness of us as mothers knowing what is happening for them, what's happening in their lives. So for us, we moved a lot in the last 3 years. We moved from Australia to Germany, from Germany to Austria, from Austria to Nicaragua. And so all of that caused a level of trauma for my children, because they had to say goodbye to all of their friends. And so there was a rat's tail of emotion that I had to deal with and catch and help them move through, because I knew that trauma, if it wasn't dealt with, it would cause disease at some point. And I hope I did a good job. Some of it we're probably still moving through. But you as the mother and you as the healer in your home, you know your family's story. You know some of the things that have happened to your children, some of the things your children maybe witnessed, maybe even things that might have happened to you that could have been traumatic for them, and so on and so forth. The other underlying reason for disease we just spoke about, toxicity. And my definition of toxicity is simply that the body has too much of what it doesn't want and need. Or deficiency, we spoke about depletion. Deficiency, my definition of that is that the body simply has too little of what it wants and needs to thrive. And so healing really is quite complex and quite multi-layered, and it can feel overwhelming. And my intention is not to make you feel overwhelmed, but my intention is to simply, like I said, this is supposed to be an activation for mothers. It's simply to be a few sparks for you to activate awareness in your life, and then for you to step by step integrate that into your day to day. Another tool that you can use is to reduce the impact of EMF. EMF stands for electromagnetic frequency, and we as humans are frequency. And that is the only reason why a machine like an MRI works, where they can hook us up and they can, track our heart rate and our breath rate, and they can even scan us and they can see certain things. Or if you touch something that has a bit of a charge, you get like a little zap. That's because you are frequency. There is electric frequency running through your body. There's electric impulses from your brain sent to your body through your nervous system. And obviously, if that is the case, and we know that is the case, then outside frequency can actually interrupt our internal frequency. And I am so shocked that that is not talked about more in our day to day, because we are swimming through an ocean of electromagnetic frequencies, and we really need to protect ourselves, and especially our children. So where does it come from, this EMF? Computers, cell phones, Wi-Fi, but also normal cables. And that is often talked about as dirty electricity in our walls. So the wiring in our house gives off a level of EMF. So what you can do is remove all of the plugs around or under your child's bed, and also to check the surroundings of your house for things like power lines, smart meters, and electricity boxes. Now, we can't always move house. Sometimes it just is what it is. Now, there's also some cool devices that you can find online if you just Google EMF protection, wearable devices, devices that can be plugged in, devices that can be put in your computer, or stickers you can put on your phone. You can see mine just here. And these are referred to as harmonizers. And, some of them out there are literally scams. So you might want to get some that just have lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of reviews from other people. There's also some cool ones that literally show you the science. They will show you a scan of a body without the device and a cell phone, and then a scan of the body with the device and a cell phone, and they will show you the change. And that's what you're looking for. You want to obviously purchase something that really works. Then we want to talk about energetics, and we want to talk about your sixth sense as a mother. A mother's intuition is second to none, I dare say. And if you already have children, then you have definitely had experiences of that, like just that subtle knowing that something's up. Or maybe you literally could anticipate that they were about to fall ill and then they did. Or you could just kind of sense that something was wrong. And then sure enough, maybe later on you found out that there was something wrong with them. I also have spoken to many mothers who really kind of had to fight the good fight for their children, and had to keep pushing their health practitioners and medical providers to keep digging, because they knew something was up, something was wrong, and they weren't getting the answers that they knew they needed until at some point they did. And in hindsight, they realized they knew it all along. So there is a lot of non-verbal communication happening between you and your child. And I like to call that nature's safety net, right? God's technology. Nature is very wise, very smart, and it wants us to thrive. It wants us and our children to survive. And so, of course, nature is giving us these tools. And I think our sixth sense is one of those amazing tools. So as you step more into this role in becoming the healer in your home, learn to trust this sixth sense and expand on it, because every time you trust it, every time you act on it, it's almost like a muscle. It's almost like you're strengthening that muscle, and that muscle will become stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger, and you'll be able to use that intuition more and more and more in your everyday life, and it literally becomes like an amazing superpower. And then when it comes to energetics as well, be aware that children are like sponges, and they soak up anything and everything in their environment, because they have to, because that's how they learn, and that's how they copy, and that's how they actually learn to navigate the world. However, they will also soak up some of the negative energies and ways that they are exposed to around them. So regularly clearing your child's energy field and their room, and in general your home, is one of the best ways to prevent disease. Now, there's a few different ways that you can do this. One of them, depending on your beliefs, one of them would be prayer, and that's one of my favorite ways actually these days. But there's also lots of different other and very tangible ways you can do that with. So baths are amazing, either in the ocean will literally just cleanse their field, and that's why usually after you've taken them to the ocean, they're really just harmonized. My children definitely are. If that's not an option for you, you can put Epsom salts into baths. You can also use essential oils in baths. Now, if you don't have a bath, a great way is also just to shower them. Then using sage or Palo Santo, so smoking out your home and using your intention to really kind of safeguard your home. So I like to every now and again walk through my house with some sage, some Palo Santo, and just with prayer intention, so that my house be cleared and that anything and everything that doesn't serve me or my children is removed from this space, and that it is returned to its complete purity. And you will notice the difference, and the people who come and visit your house will notice the difference, and you and your family will feel just so much more comfortable in your home. Then your hands are actually really beautiful tools for healing and for clearing. And that's why there is so many traditions of healing touch, like massage, like Reiki. So simply using your hands to put on your children and to have this beautiful intention of healing flowing through you and into them has a massive effect, and it is so underestimated. And then, of course, you can use your sounds, you can use humming. And that's why many mothers, especially of young children, will intuitively start humming when they're trying to get them to sleep. Now, especially when your small child is on your chest and you hum, then that vibration will carry through to them and can be actually a really beautiful and powerful healing modality. You can obviously also sing if that is something you like to do, or you can use some really healing and soothing music, and that's another gentle and easy and free way to heal. Now we're going to talk about your nervous system and their nervous system. So our nervous system is literally what allows us to experience the world, and how our nervous system is wired will determine how we experience the world. If we are wired in a complete stress, like over stress response, we will only experience anything and everything around us in that way. If our nervous system is quite chill, we are usually quite resilient. And so when it comes to our children, their nervous system is still in the wiring. So we have a massive chance to positively impact and modulate their nervous system. Your nervous system and their nervous system is connected. There's something really cool that's called mirror neurons, and mirror neurons do exactly what their name says. They mirror what they witness. So just for a second, imagine I have a really beautiful, big, juicy lemon in my hand, and I squeeze it a little bit and I smell that strong scent of lemon, and then I put it on a chopping board and I get a knife and I cut that lemon, and some of that juice flows out straight away, and then I cut a nice thick slice and I take it in my hand and I smell it, and then I bite into it. Now, I don't know about you, but for me, straight away, just thinking about that got all of my saliva flowing, and maybe that's the same for you. If that happened for you, then you have some strong mirror neurons, and they are firing right now, and they are mirroring my experience. That is the same thing that happens when we watch a movie and the movie is really sad and we start crying. It's not even our experience, but our mirror neurons are firing off, and so we are feeling what we are witnessing over there, not even in real life, right? And so obviously that happens with our children all day, every day. So they will mirror your state, if you like it or not. And I know this can be like super daunting and super confronting, because we're like, wow, that's a lot of responsibility on our shoulders. However, that's just what it is, right? So our well-being ripples through the whole family. So we must take good care of ourselves first, or everyone else will inevitably suffer. So we as mothers must find really great ways to care for ourselves in order to take care of our families. Now, depletion is a real thing, especially if you've had more than one pregnancy, especially if you've breastfed for a while, especially if you've had a lot of demand placed on you. And so you simply must find a way to fuel up, to fill up your tank, because a healthy home really needs a healthy mother. And I'm speaking from experience here because I had a mother who was often very unwell, and I sure felt the effects of that. So this is not meant to scare you or put a burden on you. This is just supposed to be a sweet reminder that is meant to serve you, for you to actually make the time to take care of yourself, whatever that is that you need, whether it's alone time, whether it's making sure you get your exercise or your walks, whether it's you make sure you get enough sleep, whether it is you actually book that massage or that acupuncture session, or you go to yoga. You know yourself best. You actually know what you need. The only thing you have to make sure is that you put that in your week, that you schedule that, and that you make that as important as everyone else's needs. I know it's easy to put everyone else first as a mother, but it never works out. Now we're going to talk about nutrition. If you remember at the beginning, I told you that one of the things that I have done is some yoga training. And in yoga, the body is referred to as the jacket made of food. I think that's a really sweet way to have a metaphor for what food actually does for us. I just need some oils and a sip of water after all that talking. So when we think about that, so our modern way of kind of saying this, you know, the jacket made of food, is you are what you eat. And if we then take that one step further, we could establish that health really begins in your kitchen. Hippocrates said, "Let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food." So we need the nutrients that nature provides. And modern diets, unfortunately, are a leading cause of disease worldwide. And this is scientifically proven. And yet, still, the majority of the world keeps eating the food that makes them sick, which to me is an absolute mind boggle. But I guess that's just where we are right now. And we have lots to transform when it comes to the health of the world. We know scientifically that cancers actually love sugar, and that really bad fats create heart disease if overconsumed. So our kitchens must become the health hub of the family, where daily we dish out well-being. So, but what do we then actually cook and eat? Yeah, there's so much confusing information out there when it comes to nutrition. If you scroll through Instagram, some will tell you you should be keto. The next person will tell you you should be vegan. The next person will tell you you should just be juicing. The next person will tell you you should be fasting. So we often end up just going, I don't even know what to eat anymore. So I have a few recommendations for you, and a couple of things that work for me and for my family. And then you are the healer in your home, so you need to figure out what works for you and for your family. I will say keep it simple and eat foods that are close to nature. So that's whole foods. Ideally, they should be spray or chemical free, and ideally they should be fresh. Please make sure you have plenty of good fats in your diet. We'll get into why in a second. And make sure that you have a healthy ratio of omega-3, 6, and 9s. This is something you might want to Google. Omega-3, 6, and 9. Most of us have way too much omega-6 and way too much omega-9 and not enough omega-3. And omega-3 really is the fats that our brain and our healthy cells need. Collagen is the most abundant protein in the body, and it declines after age 25. Now, a human nervous system is mostly made up of fat and protein. So I will say you should be consuming healthy fats and healthy proteins as a huge part of your diet. Now, I have seen this a few times, and we have seen this in our health practice as well. And I find this incredibly disturbing, and that's why I'm so outspoken about this. I do not believe that children should be vegan. And I have seen some nervous, pale, and weak vegan children. And I will get into why I believe that it's very wrong for children to be vegan, and that at no other point in history would children be vegan other than now, where we have so much confusing health advice. I know I'll step on some people's toes here, but I'm okay with that. That is my honest opinion. So what to eat then? I will definitely say I believe we should be eating less grain than what most people eat. We should be eating more vegetables, more fats, and more proteins. The problem with grains are that they increase inflammation in the body. There is some natural phytochemicals, so some natural plant chemicals in grains, because grains don't actually want to be eaten. So they produce chemicals so that we don't eat them. But we eat them anyway. And so those phytochemicals will create inflammation in our body. Now, I grew up in Germany and Austria. I grew up on bread and bread rolls and cakes and all sorts of things made from grain. And it was only in my mid to late 20s that I reduced my intake massively, and my health actually improved drastically. And I reckon I am healthier now than I was when I was a teenager. The other problem with grains is that grains also turn into sugars. So especially your typical bleached white flour, the body will just metabolize into sugar, and sugar is not a good fuel. Sugar is like a flash burn. That's why when you eat something sugary, you have like this quick increase in energy, and usually after that, you have a pretty deep, long drop and crash. Fat is a much better fuel, and it is so needed for our nervous system. And now I'm going to be reading you some pretty flash sounding sentences, and then I will get into explaining them. Now, all of these things I didn't just make up, I got them from science, neuroscience, and I'm putting them here because it is so important for me to educate people on how crucial it is to feed our children a good diet for their health, for their longevity. We're going to be talking about something that's myelination. You may know what that is. You may not know what that is. If you see over here, there is the brain of a little baby, and then you can see the nervous system. You can see the spinal cord. You can see all these beautiful nerves coming out from the spinal cord and going to literally every corner of the body. This is how our brain communicates to the body, through our nervous system. And like I said before, our nervous system is literally responsible for how we experience the world around us. So if we have a messed up nervous system, our experience of the world is not going to be very nice. If we have a really beautiful, amazing nervous system, we are going to have a much better experience of life. Now, I'm going to be reading you a little bit about myelination and what it is. Myelination is the process by which brain oligodendrocytes produce layers of myelin that wrap around the neuronal axons and act as a layer of insulation for the transmission of electric action potentials down the neuronal action. Oh my God, I can't even say it. It's obviously very complex, but we are going to break it down super simple. So it's a layer of insulation for the transmission of electric action potentials. So our brain is sending electric action potentials through our nervous system into our body. This is the communication highway, right? This is the master control, and that's the highway to all corners of our body. Throughout early neurodevelopment, myelination helps provide the foundation for brain connectivity and supports the emergence of cognitive and behavioral functioning. Let that sink in. This is big. Early life nutrition is an important and modifiable factor that can shape myelination and consequently cognitive outcomes. Do you know what that means? That means with what you feed your child, you can shape their cognition, the way they think and the way they behave. This is so big. And I'm honestly shocked that this is not kind of screamed of every rooftop to every mother out there. Myelination, or the coating or covering of axons with myelin, begins around birth and is most rapid in the first 2 years of life, but continues perhaps as late as age 30. What? I didn't know that. My research uncovered that for me. So this isn't just like a little phase of our life. We have years and years and years and years and years where we can build a healthy nervous system. However, the first 2 years are super important. So the first foods we feed our babies and the nutrients that we have available as mothers in our body when we breastfeed have a massive impact on the health of our children, probably for their entire life. What exactly is myelin? Myelin is an insulating layer or a sheath that forms around nerves, including those in the brain and spinal cord. It is made up of protein and fatty substances. This myelin sheath allows electrical impulses to transmit quickly and efficiently along the nerve cells. If myelin is damaged, these impulses slow down. How do we want the nervous system of our children to be? In my eyes, we want it to be healthy. We want it to be quick. We want it to have really good feedback loops so that their experience of life and that their cognition and that their behavior is the best it can possibly be. Excuse me. So where do we get these good fats and proteins? Here are some great sources. Grass-fed butter. Grass-fed because obviously we want the cow to eat what it naturally eats. Olive oil, fish oil, really pure fish oil, cod liver oil, pumpkin and linseed oil, bone broths, eggs, avocados, and so on. Here is a really great recommendation for your reading or listening. This is also available as an audiobook from Audible. I like to listen to things. I don't really have too much time at the moment to sit down and read. Maybe that will change in the future. But I can listen to things while I go about my day, while I drive in the car, while I tidy up my home, and so on and so forth. Yeah. And this is called Deep Nutrition by a medical doctor. Her name is Catherine Shanahan. And the subtitle to this book is called Why Your Genes Need Traditional Food. And it's a brilliant book. And she has a really cool story herself because she herself was encountering some health challenges and then started looking into nutrition and healed herself through changing her diet, and then became really passionate about sharing that with all of her patients. And so she has a really great, what would you call it? Like, she has so many great stories of people healing through changing the way they eat. She says the two biggest issues today are, for one, vegetable oils, and for two, sugars. Now, this is huge. I live in Nicaragua, and unfortunately, they make everything in either soy oil or canola oil. And so I actually try to eat out less because I know that vegetable oils are no good. Why? Because they cause inflammation. Here are some examples of vegetable oils: corn oil, canola oil, cottonseed oil, soy oil, sunflower oil, safflower oil, grapeseed oil, and rice bran oil. Believe it or not, palm oil is better than all of these. she goes into, what exactly happens in her book. So I really recommend you read into this because it's a massive eye opener for, yeah, the things that we consume. So we might be going out, to eat a beautiful piece of fresh caught fish and it's just fried in GMO soy oil and it's completely ruined. Then the other thing is sugars. The problem with sugars is that they mess up our blood sugar levels. Now, our blood sugar is completely tied in with most of the natural biochemical functions of our body. Now, if we mess up our blood sugar, those biochemical functions just go all haywire. It is also, and this one blew me away, the cause of cavities. Now, cavities in our teeth don't actually form as a direct result of sugar on our teeth. They form as a result of our blood sugar going up too high and then a little gland in the back of our mouth stopping to produce the saliva that continuously remineralizes our teeth. I mean, how wild is that? I couldn't even believe that. I always thought it was actually the sugar that would cause the cavities. It's not. It's the messing up of our blood sugar levels that causes the cavities. So there is some really great ways in which we can balance blood sugar. Essential oil usage is one of them. This is a different topic though. So if you're interested in that, you need to come to a different class that I'll be talking about in a minute. But obviously watching our intake of sugars is one of the easiest ways that we can keep our blood sugar healthy. So you need to watch the glycemic index of the things you consume. You definitely want to reduce or cut out white sugar, brown sugar, like it doesn't even matter. Brown sugar is not healthier. It might have some few more minerals, but it does the same thing to our blood sugar levels. You definitely want to get rid of things like high fructose corn, syrup, and so on and so forth. You can substitute with things like honey, agave, but even honey and agave in moderation because they still impact our blood sugar. Things that taste sweet and don't impact our blood sugar are xylitol, stevia, and monk fruit sweetener. And I recommend you focus on those for yourself, but also your children. Now, I'm not saying you should never eat sugar. We all, we're humans. We're not perfect. There is times where you're, just going to go crazy on that bar of chocolate or whatever it is, or drink your can of Coke. But overall, you want to be aware that vegetable oils and sugars really play havoc in your body and your children's bodies. Another suggestion that I will make is that you make some one-pot meals. Now, one-pot meals are things like broths and stews and soups, things like grandmother's chicken soup, because they are pre-digested. When you cook in one pot, all of the flavors and all of the ingredients get to work out their role already. And then when you eat them, they're really easy to digest. So they're really beautiful and easy to absorb, and it's easy for our body to get the nutrients out of them. So they're really nourishing foods, and they're really the kind of food that our grandmothers cooked, especially when we were unwell. And turns out they were completely right with that because they are healing foods. Now we are nearly done. We have about 10 minutes left, and we're going to go into a little bit more hands-on tools in our toolbox as healer in every home. We've already established you are the healer in your home, whether you know it or not. And this toolbox is supposed to empower you to make you more effective in your role. Think about a craftsman, no matter how talented they are, they're still going to need some tools to be really effective. And same goes for us as mothers and healers in our home. One of my all-time favorite tools are essential oils, and I call them nature's medicine. Now, plants actually don't just have essential oils for fun. They have them for a purpose, and that purpose is for their own protection and their own regeneration. So what do they want to protect themselves from? Things like bacteria, funguses, all kinds of pests, things that could make them sick, right? They also use them for their regeneration when they already are attacked by these things, by these bacteria, by these funguses, by these molds, by these pests. They use them for their own self-regeneration. So now the cool thing is you can use them in the same way. You can use them for your own protection. You can use them for your own regeneration or that of your children. How cool is that? I just love that. Essential oils work with our body and not against it, like medications. When we take medications, we usually shut down the normal responses from our body. So when you take a painkiller, you just shut down the pain receptors. When you take something to drop your fever, you just shut down that response from the body. You don't actually work with the body to heal. Same goes when you take an antibiotic. It will just wipe out all of the biotic functions in the body. Yes, it will wipe out the bad bacteria. It will also wipe out the good bacteria. It's like, atomic bomb going off. When we use essential oils, they are much more selective. And this is a sentence that comes from my smart and amazing husband. And he says essential oils are facilitative molecules and they kick off reactions, functions, and pathways in the body. Now, I translated that for us, who we are not health practitioners. I imagine that like being a guy with a megaphone, telling our cells in our body and the synapses what they are supposed to do. For me, that's easier to imagine than, this sentence. Kind of the same thing though, right? We use an essential oil, it goes into our body and it kicks off a chain reaction. And we can use that to our advantage. And what I love about them as well is that they are super easy to use and it's really easy to learn about them. There's even apps you can put on your phone where you literally type in the symptom you or your child is experiencing, and the app will tell you which essential oil to use and how. It's so easy. All right. The other thing that is so cool about oils is that the aroma will change either your or your child's mental state. And it gives us the opportunity to create a really nice atmosphere in our home. And I believe that that is one of the key elements for our healing. Imagine yourself being sick and being in a messy and stinky house. And then imagine yourself being sick and being in a peaceful, calm, clean, tidy, and well-smelling house. In which space, in which environment are you going to heal better? I think it's obvious, right? The other thing that's super cool is that children tend to have a really natural connection to essential oils. And usually when parents start using oils, their children, especially if they're like, say, the age of 3 and older, will respond with interest and with curiosity. Then children that are a little bit older can actually be taught some simple strategies to help themselves. So you can give your child a appropriately diluted roller bottle so that they know they can help themselves. They can have different stickers on that roller bottle so that they know, okay, that is my oil when I feel sad. That is my oil when my tummy is upset. That is my oil when I've hurt myself. And my children do this beautifully, and I love watching them kind of becoming their own support system. And on that point, just feel into that for a second. Imagine what that actually teaches them for their future and for that next generation. If they're already from a young age are given tools with which to help them, like that, I love that. That blows my mind. So if you don't know a lot about essential oils yet and you want to know more, on the 3rd of December, that's actually next Saturday, I will be teaching a class that's called Dr. Mum. And we will be talking about some of the specific oils and how we can use them for specific and common issues. Now, if you want to be part of that, just send me a message directly and I can send you the invitation to that. We're nearly there. This is my last point, last couple of slides. And that's on Schussler salts. Now, if you were to die, which hopefully will take a long time before that happens, and then you were to cremate your body, and then you would look at what's left over, you would find 12 minerals. Quite amazing, right? And I will read to you how someone found out about them. Schussler's 12 tissue salts are often called a medicine chest for the whole family. Tissue salts were first developed or discovered by the German doctor Wilhelm Schussler, who said ill health was caused by an imbalance in the body's 12 vital cell salts. Schussler believed that these imbalances could be corrected by easily absorbed and homeopathically prepared microdoses of each salt. Schussler's tissue salts, also known as biochemical or cell salts, are potentized microdoses of the 12 essential minerals your body needs to repair and maintain itself. They are prepared in a homeopathic 6-time potency that are gentle enough to be used by the youngest to the eldest members of the family. They can even be used with pets. So that's Schussler salts. Now, homeopathy in itself is obviously a huge field. And even though I have dabbled a little bit with it, I find it quite challenging. It takes a long time to really get into it. I find essential oils much easier. However, I find these 12 Schussler salts a really easy way to get into it. And it's actually quite easy to learn about that. I have a link for you that I will post into the chat in a second that you can copy out of it, where you can learn about these 12 Schussler salts. Now, if you are watching the replay, then you can't obviously copy the link. So I will give you a second to note this down. And then in your own time, you can learn a little bit more about these Schussler salts. Now, these are really super easy to source. You can even go online and just Google them and buy yourself a little set with these 12 essential remedies, and then just read up about them. And after a while, you will get into them and it'll be quite easy for you to know what to use when. Some brands, some companies even have them with their main usages on the bottle, which I find really handy, so that you know when there is an issue, say with skin for yourself or your child, you know which Schussler salt to use because it will say skin issues and so on and so forth. Now, I know that was a lot. We are finished with the presentation. I have been talking for over an hour straight. And I thank you for taking the time to watch this and educating yourself on being a more effective healer in your home. I hope there was something there for you that you could take with you and something that will support you in the implementation of that way of being, of that energy. I wish you all the best for being the most effective healer in your home you could possibly be. And I thank you for taking the time to watch this. Take care.